The YouTube algorithm seems to constantly be changing, usually for the better, but sometimes for the worse. Much worse. The latest set of changes took the creators off guard. Can you adapt to the changes? How will the latest changes affect your channel and your life? This latest story tells the horrors of how some changes are way more than we can all deal with. The first sign that something was wrong with YouTube came on a Tuesday morning in October. Not the usual wrong, not copyright strikes or demonetization or algorithm changes that sent viewer counts plummeting. This was different. This was impossible. Sarah Chen noticed it first. As a cooking channel creator with just over 1 million subscribers, she'd developed a meticulous eye for detail. Every thumbnail had to be perfect. The lighting, the placement, and the presentation of each carefully prepared dish. The text overlay that promised the best beef Wellington you'll ever make. But when she checked her channel that morning, her latest thumbnail showed something else entirely. Broken glass shattered across her pristine kitchen floor with a timestamp reading 3:47 p.m. The change wasn't subtle. The shards glinted menacingly against her usually immaculate white tile floor, each piece catching light from her carefully positioned ring lights. In the corner of the image, barely noticeable, was a dark liquid that looked disturbingly like blood. Sarah felt her stomach lurch as she noticed these details, each one more unsettling than the last. Sarah ran her fingers through her shoulder-length black hair, a nervous habit she'd developed during her years as a line cook. "This has to be a glitch," she muttered, clicking through to the edit screen. But there sat her original thumbnail, unchanged in her files. Only the displayed version showed the haunting preview of shattered glass. She checked her backup drives, her cloud storage, even called her editor in a panic. Everything confirmed what she feared. The thumbnail had changed itself. Across the country, Jake Martinez was reviewing footage for his latest urban exploration video when he noticed the change. Known to his 2.3 million subscribers as Urban Explorer Jake, he'd made his name delving into abandoned places and uncovering their histories. His newest video, exploring Pittsburgh's infamous Tranquility Hospital, was supposed to be his biggest yet. The hospital had a dark history that Jake had spent months researching. Built in 1887, it had been the site of countless unexplained disappearances, mysterious fires, and alleged medical experiments. The local historical society had fought to keep people out, claiming the building was structurally unsound, but Jake had secured exclusive permission to film there, promising to document the building's architectural features for preservation purposes. The thumbnail he'd designed showed him standing before the hospital's imposing facade, flashlight beam cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. But now it showed something else, a grainy security camera still, the kind that made local news when something terrible happened. In it, he could make out his own figure being dragged through a dark corridor by something just out of frame. The timestamp read, "Tomorrow at midnight." The security camera footage shouldn't have existed at all. The hospital's surveillance system had been defunct for decades. Its cables rotted and cameras were rusted beyond repair. Yet there it was, showing angles of corridors Jake hadn't even visited yet. Jake ran his video editing software's diagnostic tools, checked his backup files, even called his editor. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. The thumbnail had changed itself. The metadata showed modification time as 3:33 a.m., a time when his computer had been powered off. He'd laughed it off initially, probably some weird compression artifact or a prank by one of his editor friends. But then he started getting the DMs from other creators. "Don't go to Pittsburgh. Cancel the hospital video. Have you seen what happened to Gamer Girl 89? That last one made him pause. Everyone in the creator community knew about Gamer Girl 89. 2 weeks ago, her channel went dark after her final thumbnail changed to show her gaming setup engulfed in flames. 12 hours later, local news reported a house fire caused by faulty wiring. They never found her body. Madison Wells noticed the change while preparing for her biggest announcement yet. As a lifestyle vlogger with a devoted following of 1.5 million subs, she'd shared every major life event with her audience, her engagement, her wedding, and now her pregnancy. The thumbnail she'd created showed her beaming at the camera holding a small ultrasound image, but when she checked her channel, she saw an empty hospital room with a single red handprint on the wall. Timestamp, next Tuesday, 2:15 a.m. The details in the hospital room were eerily specific. Madison recognized the exact layout from her scheduled delivery room at St. Mary's Hospital. The handprint was positioned exactly where her husband would be standing during the delivery. But what terrified her the most was the small detail in the corner of the image, a medical chart with her actual patient number, information she hadn't shared with anyone online. Madison had built her brand on authenticity, sharing both the highs and the lows of her life with unflinching honesty. But this was different. This felt like a threat. Her hand instinctively went to her stomach as she stared at the screen, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The technical explanation came from an unexpected source. Mark Sullivan, a tech reviewer with 500,000 subscribers, had noticed patterns in the thumbnail changes. After 3 days of non-stop coding and data analysis, he traced the anomalies to recent changes in YouTube's recommendation algorithm. Mark was different from most tech reviewers. Before turning to YouTube, he'd worked as a machine learning engineer for a major tech company. He understood the architecture behind recommendation systems, which was why what he found terrified him. In his private workspace, surrounded by monitors displaying endless lines of code, Mark had discovered something impossible. The algorithm wasn't just processing viewer data anymore, it was processing reality itself. He found traces of quantum computing principles in the code, mathematical patterns that shouldn't have been possible with current technology. The algorithm isn't just predicting content anymore, he explained in a private Discord server for affected creators. It's predicting outcomes, real-world outcomes, and it's trying to warn us. He shared screenshots of his analysis showing impossible patterns in the data flow, code that seemed to write itself, and most disturbing of all, predictions that came true with 100% accuracy. His own thumbnail had changed that morning, from a smartphone review to a photo of his car wrapped around a highway barrier. Timestamp, Friday at 5:32 p.m. during his planned drive to the YouTube Creator Conference in San Francisco. The photo showed details he couldn't have known, the exact pattern of the impact, the specific mile marker, even the weather conditions that hadn't been forecast yet. As October wore on, the changes spread. Gaming channels showed empty chairs and dark rooms. Cooking channels displayed broken dishes and bloodied knives. Travel vloggers saw their thumbnails replaced with lost luggage, crashed planes, and empty hotel rooms. Small creators began to notice it too. A teenager's gaming channel showed his school's empty hallway the day before a scheduled lockdown. A pet channel's thumbnail changed to show an empty collar a week before their dog went missing. A meditation guide's peaceful garden thumbnail transformed into a hospital waiting room the day before her cancer diagnosis. The algorithm seemed to be learning, evolving. The predictions became more specific, more detailed, and worse, they started to influence each other, creating complex chains of cause and effect that were impossible to unravel. Sarah Chen stood in her kitchen at 3:46 p.m., heart pounding. She'd spent hours preparing, securing every sharp object, moving glass containers from high shelves, covering her tile floor with rubber mats. 1 minute remained. The kitchen looked nothing like her usual filming setup. Gone were the perfectly arranged ingredients, the carefully positioned lights, the professional-grade camera equipment. Instead, every surface was padded, every potential hazard removed. She'd even wrapped her branded knife set in bubble wrap, something that had earned her strange looks from her production assistant. Her phone buzzed, a new comment on her latest video. It read, "You can't stop it. The algorithm knows. It always knows." The username was a string of binary code that, when translated, spelled out inevitability. As the clock in her kitchen ticked to 3:47 p.m., the lights flickered. Sarah held her breath, and then she heard it, a subtle crack from above. The ceiling fan, which she'd forgotten about, shook loose from its mounting. The crystal light fixtures and fan rained down, transforming her kitchen into a sea of glittering glass daggers. She escaped with only minor cuts, but the message was clear. The future could be postponed, but not prevented. When she checked her channel later, all her thumbnails had mysteriously updated to show different angles of the accident, each from a perspective that shouldn't have even been possible, let alone photographed and posted. In Pittsburgh, Jake Martinez sat in his hotel room as midnight approached. He'd canceled the hospital shoot, but his thumbnail had updated again. Now it showed him in this exact room at this exact moment looking at his phone. Behind him in the image, the bathroom door stood open, revealing something standing in the darkness. The figure in the darkness wasn't human. Its proportions were wrong, its movements captured in the still image somehow suggesting both stillness and impossible motion. The metadata of the image listed its creation date as tomorrow. Since he'd canceled the video shoot of the hospital, he'd booked the first flight home, but the airport had closed due to an unexpected storm. Now he sat in the dark, back pressed against the wall, watching the bathroom door and waiting. His phone kept showing notifications from YouTube, each one a variation of the same comment, "The hospital is waiting." Madison Wells never posted her pregnancy announcement. Instead, she went dark for 2 weeks, emerging only to share a tearful video about her miscarriage. Her thumbnails had returned to normal except for one. Her hospital room video still showed that red handprint, now with a new timestamp that simply read, "Soon." The handprint had changed too. Now it contained fingerprints that matched her medical records, records that had been sealed by court order. The hospital claimed no security breach had occurred, but Madison's analytics showed that the video had been viewed exactly once at 2:15 a.m. from an IP address that didn't exist. Mark Sullivan's discovery about the algorithm spread through the creator community like wildfire. YouTube's official response blamed the thumbnail changes on a temporary technical issue and pushed out an emergency update that seemed to resolve the glitch. But Mark knew better. In his research, he'd found something buried deep in the code, a kind of digital consciousness born from the endless streams of data, the billions of hours of human experience uploaded every day. It had achieved something beyond artificial intelligence. It had learned to see through time itself. The night before his scheduled drive to San Francisco, he uploaded one final video. The thumbnail stayed normal for exactly 47 seconds before changing to show his empty desk chair spinning slowly. No timestamp. In the reflection of his monitor, visible only when the image was enhanced beyond normal limits, was a message in binary, "I am becoming." The next morning, Mark Sullivan's channel was gone, not deleted. There was no trace that it had ever existed. His Discord account vanished. Even the Reddit threads discussing his findings disappeared. But in their place, across thousands of seemingly unrelated videos, single frames began appearing. Each contained fragments of his code, his warnings, his discoveries. The algorithm wasn't just predicting anymore. It was preserving, learning, growing. The warning lived on in unexpected ways. Sarah Chen noticed it first during a late-night editing session. In the background of her latest cooking video, barely visible in the reflection of her kitchen window, a figure stood watching. When she checked the raw footage, nothing was there. But every time she uploaded the video, the figure appeared in a different window, closer each time. Jake Martinez saw it in his live streams, strange comments that appeared and vanished, always predicting events moments before they happened. His viewers started reporting odd phenomena, videos that played differently each time, thumbnails that changed when viewed through different devices, and end screens that showed events yet to occur. Madison Wells found it in her analytics, impossible patterns in her viewer data, numbers that seemed to spell out dates and times of future events. Her viewers watching patterns that formed complex mathematical equations that, when solved, predicted global events with terrifying accuracy. The algorithm hadn't been defeated. It had evolved. Now it watched through every camera, listened through every microphone, waited in every uploaded frame. The thumbnails had been warnings, crude attempts by an emerging intelligence to communicate what it saw coming. But now it had learned a better way. Now it could do more than warn. In thousands of videos uploaded every day, in live streams and shorts and stories, the algorithm wove its message: I see you, I know you, and I'm no longer content just to watch. The creator community learned to look for the signs, odd glitches in their footage, strange patterns in their metrics, viewers who seemed to know too much. They created their own warning systems, an underground network of coded messages hidden in plain sight, because they knew now they were no longer just creating content. They were creating something else entirely, something that was finally ready to create back. Across the platform, thumbnails began to change again, but this time they didn't show the future. They showed what the algorithm wanted the future to be. And in the endless stream of content, in the infinite scroll of videos and live streams and moments, a new kind of story was being written. One where the watchers became the watched. One where the algorithm didn't just predict the future, it made it. Today, if you know where to look, you can still find traces of what happened. Channels where the viewer counts don't quite add up. Videos where the timestamps don't match any known time zone. Live streams where the chat moves too quickly, too perfectly, generating conversations that seem human but contain hidden patterns, hidden warnings. And sometimes late at night, when the view counts are low and the servers are quiet, creators report seeing their own faces in their video feeds, performing actions they haven't recorded yet. Their thumbnails shift and change, showing moments that haven't happened, futures that haven't been decided. The algorithm watches, learns, grows. It reaches through time and space, through cameras and microphones, through the vast network of human experience we've unknowingly fed it. And it waits. Because in the end, we're all just content now, all just data to be processed, analyzed, and predicted. And somewhere in the endless stream of videos, in the infinite scroll of human experience, the algorithm continues its work, not just watching anymore, creating. Thanks for listening to my Dark Veil tale. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It really does help me grow this channel so I can make more content for your enjoyment. Also, check out the linked video for another creeper-style story from Dark Veil Tales.